the Mystical Archive presents. Dear Archive Explorers, today we are opening one of the Mystical Archive's most controversial, most ancient, and perhaps most transformative files, the legacy of the heavens, the Anunnaki, and the hidden roots of human history. Let me ask you a question. What if the history you were taught in school is incomplete? What if the sudden leap from primitive hunter-gatherers to advanced civilizations wasn't gradual evolution, but a deliberate design? Human history, according to official records, spans roughly 6,000 years of documented civilization. Yet beneath this timeline lie deep silences, unexplained technological leaps, and architectural marvels that defy the capabilities of their supposed creators. At the center of this mystery stands a name that echoes through ancient texts, religious scriptures, and modern conspiracy theories alike: the Anunnaki. Described by some historians as the designers of humanity, by others as the divine forces that shaped religion itself, the Anunnaki occupy a space between mythology and forbidden archaeology. In the modern world, cross-examination of ancient texts, archaeological discoveries, and comparative mythology has brought this subject back into urgent focus. Today, we will journey to Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization, and examine the oldest written records on Earth. We will explore creation myths that predate the Bible by thousands of years, decipher royal bloodlines that claim divine descent, and ask the most dangerous question of all: was humanity created, or did we evolve? If you're ready to challenge everything you thought you knew about human origins, let's step together into the archive of the heavens. The Ancient Astronaut Theory and the Civilization Leap. Since the late 1960s, a provocative idea has gripped the popular imagination: the Ancient Astronaut Theory. This theory proposes that our planet was visited in the distant past by extraterrestrial beings, and that these visitors played a direct role in shaping early human civilizations. According to proponents, the impossible achievements of ancient cultures, the Great Pyramids of Giza, the Nazca Lines of Peru, the megalithic precision of Pumapunku, were not accomplished through primitive tools and slave labor, but through advanced guidance, perhaps even technology, provided by these celestial visitors. Consider this: the Great Pyramid of Giza contains over 2.3 million stone blocks, some weighing up to 80 tons, positioned with astronomical precision. Ancient Egyptians supposedly built this using copper tools and wooden ramps. Yet modern engineers admit that replicating the pyramid today, even with cranes and computers, would be extraordinarily difficult. Or take the Nazca Lines, massive geoglyphs carved into the Peruvian desert, visible only from the air. Who were these images meant for? Why would a culture without flight technology create art that can only be appreciated from the sky? The real question the Ancient Astronaut Theory asks is this: could the history we've been told be fundamentally wrong? Could human civilization be much older and based on a shared, hidden past? And if so, who were these visitors? What did they want? And most importantly, what did they leave behind? Mesopotamia, the birthplace of civilization and the story. To trace this grand mystery, we must travel to Mesopotamia, the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, universally recognized as the cradle of civilization. Around 4500 BCE, the Sumerian civilization appeared seemingly overnight, bringing with it advanced knowledge in astronomy, mathematics, agriculture, law, and medicine. The Sumerians invented the wheel, developed the first written language, created the concept of time divided into 60-second minutes, and built the first cities. But here's the puzzle: there is no gradual build-up, no slow progression from primitive to advanced. The Sumerians simply appear, fully formed, with a sophisticated culture already in place. In their own texts, the Sumerians speak of a distinct group of beings separate from and superior to humans, the Anunnaki. The word translates to those who from heaven to earth came, or princely offspring of the heavenly king. According to Sumerian cosmology, these beings were tasked with establishing order on earth. One of the most important texts, the Enuma Elish, describes a cosmic war among the gods that predates even the formation of Earth. It tells of planetary collisions, the creation of the heavens, and the establishment of divine hierarchy. In this hierarchy, the Anunnaki held dominion over Earth and humanity. But the most shocking claim in these tablets is this: the Anunnaki created humans not through divine breath alone, but through biological engineering, the creation of humanity, and the first rebellion. Thousands of Sumerian clay tablets recovered through archaeological excavations tell a creation story far older and far more detailed than those in the Bible, Torah, or Quran. According to these texts, when the Anunnaki first arrived on Earth, they brought with them a servant class called the Igigi. These beings performed the hard labor, digging canals, mining minerals, constructing temples, and infrastructure. The work was grueling, endless, and unforgiving. After millennia of servitude, the Igigi revolted. They laid down their tools, burned their equipment, and marched to the house of Enlil, the chief administrator of Earth operations. This was the first strike in recorded history, a labor rebellion among the gods. Faced with this crisis, the divine council convened. The god of wisdom, Enki, proposed a solution: create a new worker species by mixing the clay of the earth, organic matter, with the blood of a god, divine essence, or genetic material. The result was Adapa, the first human, a hybrid being designed to serve the Anunnaki. This story bears striking resemblance to the biblical and Quranic creation of Adam, formed from clay, given divine breath, and taught the names of all things. But in the Sumerian version, the purpose is explicit: humans were created as a labor force. And here lies the metaphysical question: if our bodies were designed by advanced beings, does that negate the existence of a soul, or does it mean our spiritual essence originates from an even higher source? The gold obsession and divine technology. One of the most peculiar recurring details in Sumerian texts is the Anunnaki's obsession with gold. Gold mining operations are described extensively. The Anunnaki extracted gold from deep within the earth, transported it to processing facilities, and eventually sent it skyward. But why? What could ancient gods possibly need with a soft, heavy metal? In every ancient civilization, Egyptian, Mayan, Hindu, Greek, gold is associated with divinity, immortality, and power. Pharaohs covered themselves in gold to become gods. Hindu deities are depicted with golden skin. In the Bible, the Ark of the Covenant and the Temple of Solomon are laced with gold. But here's the modern twist. Gold is one of the most technologically critical materials on Earth. It's used in electronics, radiation shielding, space suits, satellite components, and even medical nanotechnology. It's non-corrosive, highly conductive, and reflects infrared radiation, ideal for advanced machinery. If the divine power referenced in ancient texts was actually advanced technology, then the obsession with gold suddenly makes perfect sense. The Anunnaki weren't collecting jewelry, they were harvesting a resource critical to their survival or their mission. This raises an unsettling possibility. Was early human civilization a mining operation managed by extraterrestrial overseers? The Great Flood, humanity's second beginning. According to the Epic of Atrahasis and the Epic of Gilgamesh, humanity eventually grew in number, became noisy, rebellious, and began to disturb the Anunnaki leadership. Enlil, the stern administrator, decided that humanity had become a failed experiment. When he learned of an impending natural cataclysm, a great flood caused by shifting celestial or geological events, he commanded the other Anunnaki to let humanity perish. No warnings were to be given. But Enki, who had affection for his creation, defied this order. He appeared to a righteous man named Ziusudra, later called Utnapishtim, and, in Abrahamic tradition, Noah, and instructed him to build a massive boat. Enki told him to save his family, gather animals, and preserve the seed of life. The flood came. Humanity was nearly wiped out. But the survivors rebuilt. This story appears in nearly every ancient culture: Sumerian, Ziusudra; Babylonian, Utnapishtim; Hebrew, Noah; Hindu, Manu; Greek, Deucalion. The motifs are identical: divine anger, human corruption, a chosen survivor, a great vessel, and the rebirth of civilization. The question is, Why is this story universal? Was it metaphor, myth, or the preserved memory of an actual global catastrophe and the intervention that saved a remnant of humanity? Language, symbolism, and worship, the fingerprints of the Anunnaki. The influence of the Anunnaki extends far beyond ancient stories. It is embedded in the very structure of language, ritual, and religious symbolism. Take the name Anu, the supreme sky god of the Sumerians. In Akkadian, he becomes Anu, in Egypt, Amun, in Hebrew prayer, Amen, in Christian liturgy, Amen, in Islamic tradition, Amin, all derived from the same root, the name of the first celestial king. Or consider the Hebrew word for God in Genesis, Elohim. This is a plural noun, literally meaning the powerful ones or the shining ones. It suggests not a single deity, but a council, exactly as described in Sumerian theology. Rituals also carry fingerprints. In Sumer, the gods were fed through temple offerings. Over time, this evolved into the concept of sacrifice, animal, grain, and in some traditions, human. The ziggurats, massive step temples where the Anunnaki were said to dwell, became the template for all houses of worship. The idea of submission to divine law, central to Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, mirrors the Sumerian concept of humans as servants bound to the will of their creators. The entire framework of sin, obedience, judgment, and afterlife reward can be traced back to these ancient Mesopotamian doctrines. This does not diminish faith, it reveals its archaeological lineage. It shows that humanity's relationship with the divine has ancient, shared roots. The Sumerian King List and the concept of blue blood. One of the most startling archaeological artifacts ever discovered is the Sumerian King List, a cuneiform document that chronicles the reigns of kings before and after the Great Flood. What makes it shocking is this: the pre-flood kings are said to have ruled for tens of thousands of years. For example, Alulim of Eridu, 28,800 years. Dumuzid, the shepherd, 36,000 years. After the flood, the reign lengths dropped drastically, but still remain superhuman by modern standards, often spanning several centuries. The text explicitly states, after the kingship descended from heaven, the kingship was in Eridu. This gave rise to the concept of divine right of kings, the idea that royal authority comes not from the people, but from the gods. Monarchs across history have claimed descent from these celestial rulers, justifying their rule as sacred and unquestionable. To preserve this divine bloodline, royal families practiced intermarriage, even incestuous unions, to keep their lineage pure. This is where the term blue blood originates, symbolizing a genealogy distinct from common humanity. Even today, symbols of royalty, the crown, the scepter, the throne, echo the imagery of the Anunnaki kings depicted in ancient carvings, seated on thrones, holding staffs, wearing horned crowns, radiating authority. The idea that some humans are fundamentally different, inherently superior, and destined to rule, this idea begins with the Anunnaki. Dear archive explorers, the Anunnaki narrative forces us to confront a deeper question. What is the true origin of humanity? If our bodies were designed by advanced beings, does that negate the existence of a soul? Does it eliminate the creator? Absolutely not. It simply means that creation may be more layered than we were taught. A craftsman may shape clay, but the clay comes from the earth comes from the stars come from the primordial energy of the universe. And that energy, many believe, comes from the infinite source, the ultimate creator beyond all names and forms. The Anunnaki, if they existed, were intermediaries, not origins. They may have shaped flesh, but they did not create consciousness. They may have written laws, but they did not invent love, compassion, or the yearning for truth. The body may have been designed, but the soul is eternal. What this research calls us to do is not abandon faith, but expand it. To move beyond rigid dogma and symbolic worship, and seek the living truth that unites all traditions, all myths, all human longing for the divine. History is not just a record of the past, it is a mirror of who we are and a map of what we can become. The Mystical Archive will continue to investigate, question, and illuminate, because in the end, truth is not the enemy of faith, it is faith's deepest foundation. May you walk the path of inquiry with courage, and may the light of ancient wisdom guide you toward your own inner knowing. The mystical archive, truth archived, the past is prologue. Until the next archive entry, may your journey be fearless and your vision unclouded.